Hello, and welcome back to a Tech Ambrosia Saturday stream. I hope everybody's had a good week. Let me know in the chat if you have or you haven't. My week has been pretty eventful. In kind of some good and some bad ways. Obviously, probably the biggest change is this thing here behind me, that you probably noticed. That was supposed to be today's stream. However, I'm waiting for my VGA cable to arrive for it. And you might say, Amber, you have VGA cables. Well, yes, I have one fairly long VGA cable that I use to connect from a PC to my VGA capture card. However, that is VGA from, like, I don't know when the cable was made, but like 2017? And this thing out here is, of course, an IBM PS2 Model 80, and that's VGA from 1987. There's a little bit of a difference. That one is missing a pin in its VGA connector, so I can't actually plug a modern connector into it, which seems weird. But I've just ordered like a 2-foot, 3-foot length of VGA extender cable. I'm just going to clip one of the pins off of it, use it for that machine, that machine, and yeah, that'll probably be next week's stream then, assuming it actually does work. That is a chonker. That is a 386DX25 with, I think, 160 meg SCSI hard drive in it. No sound card, of course, because it's microchannel, and I think it was used as workstation. But yeah, it's quite the machine. I did give it a quick look, opened it up, gave it a quick look while I was collecting it the other week. Should be real interesting to take that thing apart and take a look at it on stream. But today, that is not what we're looking at today. Today, we are looking at this little monstrosity. That's right. This is, well, it's a motherboard I found while I was cleaning up my living room. This was a donation to the channel quite a while ago, and I apologize to the person who donated it to me. I don't think they're watching the stream today, but you know who you are. Thank you for sending it. I apologize for not getting it on the channel sooner, because this thing is right up my alley. This is a nugget. You can see right here we've got a SYS530 chipset. This makes this technically Super Socket 7, although we don't have any AGP slots. You can see if I pop this out here, we've just got PCI slots and one ISA slot. Now, the interesting part about this is the 530 chipset does provide onboard video. We've got an onboard video connector on here. However, I have had zero luck getting it to actually work in Windows 98. Every time I try and install drivers on it, it freaks out and it stops working. So I've been testing a few graphics cards with it. The first one I think I want to show you guys today is this wild-looking contraption here, which is a Matrox G2 Plus Dual. And this is a dual monitor card, as you can see by the name and the fact that there are two G200 3D accelerators on here. There's two of a lot of things on here. Let me get this cable out of here and I'll show you the card. This thing is just wild. First of all, the cable. You might be thinking, oh yeah, that's a DMS59. I know what those are. I see those in cheap Dell, cheap Dell Radeons all the time. It's not a DMS59. It is an I'm going to get this wrong. It's a low-force helix, LFH60. It's the predecessor to DMS59. It has all 60 pins in this connector. This thing would focus. I don't think it'll ever focus. But DMS59 is, of course, missing one of these pins, and if you plug a DMS59 cable into this card, you're going to have a bad time. You're not going to get any video out of it. So, I also have the quad version of this card. I guess I'll spin it around the right way here for you. I have the quad version of this card. As you can see, there's a lot of solder pins on there for 2 more G200 GPUs. And yeah, that'll give you 4 monitors out of 1 card. The way this thing works is actually pretty simple. This chip right here is basically a PCI bus controller, essentially. It just creates a new PCI bus on this card. and then the two G200s connect to that PCI controller, and then it just communicates over the host PCI bus. That's it. Back of the card has some support chips for the G200s, and then two. We've got SGRAM on the front, and then mirrored SGRAM on the back. So you get 8 megs of SGRAM per card, per chip on this thing, which is kind of wild. So you've got basically a completely functional, DirectX 6 compatible 3D accelerator times 2, or if you have the quad version, times 4. I do have the quad version. I haven't tested it to see if it works, but I know this one does, and I've been messing around with it all morning to get it to work in this machine. I think it's a fair representative of performance you can expect out of this machine. If you saw the thumbnail on the stream, what's hiding under this heatsink is a K6-2 400 AFR, I think, or AFC. Not a terribly impressive chip, but, it's socket 7, it's what you're going to get. We've got 3 SD-RAM slots. This chipset does have that issue where it sometimes reads all the RAM on the SD-RAM and sometimes doesn't. So I've got a single stick of 128 megs in here. Of course, it only sees half of it, so I have 64 megs of RAM installed, essentially. For Windows 98, that's fine. Perfectly fine. I haven't tried this with anything else. So far, this has just been pull it out of the bag I found it in, clean it off, get it up and running. And that's going to be most of the video, honestly. I am planning on releasing a video on this very soon, actually. I'm right in the middle of production on it, which is why it's on the bench today as my emergency stream. Another interesting thing to note that I want to point out is, and the only reason I actually think this board is interesting is this chip right here. If you can see that, it's probably hard to make out on stream, but that is an ESS Solo 1, which is essentially an ESS audio drive, but for the PCI bus. And because it's been integrated onto this board, it does have the DDMA hooked into the SYS530 chipset. So it does work in DOS, and the Sound Blaster emulation works perfectly in DOS. I just tested it this morning. It's fantastic. It's not a wavetable chip, unfortunately. Like it's fairly large. It looks like it might be a wavetable chip, but it's not. It just gives you ES, FM, and basic stereo PCM sound effects. Make sure this is not. There we go. Not sticking on my IDE connector there. But let's get this thing booted up and take a look at it. While I hook up cables, let's see what chat's up to. How's your week been? Alright, hello, Martin Mac, welcome to the stream. Jack68K, welcome to the stream. Mac84, hello. So nice to have an Eep in my stream. Who else is here? Clarjon1+, hello, welcome back to the stream. Garth Beagle, welcome back. Everything is Broken Garage, hello, how's it going? Trina's Technobabble, welcome back, good to see ya. Dave is here from Dave's Vintage Apple Tech. Hello, Dave, how's it going? Charlotte Thorne, welcome back to the stream. All good. It is Amber time. Jack68K says if all else fails, you can replace the VGA connector. That's true. If I don't have to, I don't want to take this thing apart. Y'all haven't seen inside this thing. It's going to be a bear to get that motherboard out of that case, but that is certainly a possibility. That is certainly a possibility. Let me switch back to my A camera here so y'all can see me, but yeah, that's definitely a possibility to get the motherboard out of that PS2. But I'd rather not. I'll just get another cable and clip one of the pins. It should be fine. Pickle is here. Hello, Pickle136. I have an Asus 99VM, very similar. CPU's gone from a Pentium MMX 200 to a K6-2 500 to the K6-2 Plus 500. That's something I haven't tried in this board yet. It might be an interesting thing to see if it can run the K6-2 Plus. Could be interesting. Could be interesting. The weirdest part is that, it includes a K6-2 400, but this motherboard totally supports, 95 and 100 megahertz frontside buses. It's even silk-screened onto the board to select those. There's way more jumpers there than you'd need for just 95 and 100 megahertz, so I'm guessing using the jumpers, you can also get to, you know, 60, 66, 75, and etc. Maybe there's even a 105 megahertz on this. Who knows? Who knows? But yeah, we've got, yes. Oh, and Pickle says my Voodoo 3 PCI was in it until it died, and now it has a GeForce PCI. Yeah, so I've got my Voodoo 3 PCI here. And yes, this is a pretty decent card to pair with this system, mostly because the K6-2, not very powerful. Just in the grand scheme of things, most of the performance issues on this thing is going to be driver overhead, honestly, because the CPU is just not that good. So I've actually run like, gosh, almost a dozen graphics cards through this machine during the week to try and find some that are like reasonable and don't like cost an arm and a leg on eBay, because like a Voodoo 3, forget about it, especially a PCI Voodoo 3, like that's hundreds of dollars these days. Same weirdly with Riva TNT, you know, an old NVIDIA Riva TNT. Also, lots and lots of money for a PCI version. So I ran like, I don't have a PCI GeForce MX, because that'd be a good candidate. But I did run like a GeForce FX 5200 through the machine, which was quite slow. And then my FX 5500, which is also PCI, which was slower because the drivers were newer. And then a few ATI cards, which were very interesting, very enlightening, such as the venerable Rage XL, which is just like the hottest piece of hot garbage. Interestingly, running Expendable on the Rage XL ran at the exact same speed as a Radeon 9200 SE, and that's entirely down to the driver overhead from ATI drivers. But of course, if you think that's bad, late Windows 98 drivers from NVIDIA are even worse. The FX 5200 came in even slower than the Radeon 9200, and the FX 5500 was even slower than that. So that explains, I hope, the selection of cards we've got today. I'm going to start with the Matrox, because I think you can still get these things, maybe not the dual and quad versions, but you can get like G450s, G250s, G200s in PCI on eBay. Buy it now for like reasonable amounts of money, around 30 bucks. So like they still make pretty okay, 3D cards for a system like this. And of course, you know, it's a Matrox card, so you've got really, really decent VGA output. It's nice and sharp. And, your 2D performance is quite good, because, Matrox was very, very into the whole, business 2D thing. So I'm going to start with that, and we will eventually get to the Voodoo, because I know everybody's here for the Voodoo. Let me plug this thing in. It has a big chunk of a cable. I'm going to screw in the top screw too, because it's very heavy. Don't want it sliding out. There we go. Okay, we are in. Let's switch y'all over to the capture card. There we go. Slide this over so it's a little better in the frame. There we go. And yeah, you might recognize my little StarTech Socket 7, Socket 370 cooler. That made its channel debut, I think, on the Socket 7 overclocking board when we overclocked a bunch of Cyrixes. It does work just fine on this board. I don't know if you were here for the stream when I told you why the fan controller on that board doesn't work. But I traced it. I took the traces from the fan headers to the fan controller and then around to the power delivery, and there is a leaky cap on there, so I need to recap that board. Probably sooner rather than later. I gotta get on that. I might make that a repair stream at some point, but who knows. Let's boot this thing up and y'all can see what it does. Oh, let's see if chat has anything more to say. Anything more? Yinza says, I caught a stream! I caught a stream! Hello, welcome to the stream! DJ Craze, hello, welcome to the stream. Glad to have you here. Looks like you're Trina's fault, so I'll blame Trina for you. Thank you. Ryzen 9 3900 XT is here. Welcome to the stream, and yes, you made it for a K6-2 stream. This is a K6-2 400 AFC? AFR? I don't remember exactly, but Chomper XT, running at 400 megahertz. That is stock speed, both as it was configured in the board and as it's written on the label. What else we got? Nice. Pickles decided to get the custom BIOS. Nice, nice. Garth Beagle says 1 gigahertz. 1 gigahertz. Everything's broken. Garage says, Amber, are you running a new camera? I'm not. I am still running. I have a pair of Anker PowerConf C200, I think. You can get them refurbished, I think, still on Amazon for like 35 bucks. I like them. They're pretty good. That is both my A cam and my desk cam. Same camera. Let's see. And of course I have this one. This one is on a magic arm, so that's why like I can move this one around and get a good shot wherever I need it to be. That's pro tip. Get a magic arm. They're very good. Who else? What else we got here? Pickle says, yeah, double checked my NVIDIA cards, the FX 5500. Yep. Skilla says, nothing matched the 2D picture quality of the Matrox when using CRTs. It's very true. And honestly, like, here, I'll just boot this thing up here while I'm reading chat. You can see the image quality on this thing is fantastic, even through the capture card. Yinza says, I have a Matrox G450 and an FX 5500, but they're both AGP, or maybe it's an FX 5700. HC says, I have a Matrox Mystique and a Voodoo 2 Obsidian X32 on one PC. X24 on one PC. Nice. Not bad at all. Skilla says, yes, a repair stream would be cool. Alright, I guess I'm going to repair some boards on stream. That's not stressful at all. Oh, Ryzen 9 asks, can you do SpeedSys? I knew you would ask that. Unfortunately, I'll show you what it does. We'll do some DOS games in this too, because this is like an ideal DOS platform. I'll show you what it does. SpeedSys doesn't work on this platform. I don't know why, but it can't see the extended memory. It says it can't allocate 4 megs of memory. I have 64 megs in the machine. I don't know what's going on with it. The only thing I can imagine is that it's a memory hole. It's like a memory hole problem somewhere because of like the onboard video card might be mapping its memory in a weird place. I don't know. Yinza says, yep, correction, FX 5700 with a broken fan bearing. So it's almost as loud as its high-end counterparts. That's awful. Everything's broken. Garage says, I run the same cameras, love them. Yeah, they're really nice. Like, they're really... I do have some supplemental lighting going on here, but, like, not a ton. They look really good in just room-level lighting. Let's see, what else? Skilla says, Voodoo! No, you said woohoo! Sorry, I can't read. My reading comprehension level is quite poor today. I have been looking at Windows 98 all day, so my brain is a little bit fried. I apologize. But yeah, we are... Pickle says, better get the solder now. I found my solder. It's with the rest of my soldering supplies. I've got it all in one place now. I'm not going to lose it this time. Oh my god. Trying to find my solder last time was ridiculous. I think... Nope, I was good. I even moved my flux back over there with the rest of my soldering supplies, because I had my flux sitting under my Mac Mini for a while. But no. I've got all my soldering stuff in the same place. I've got all my solder. I've got all my flux. I've got my desoldering tool. Yeah, okay, so I'll show you. Ryzen 9 says, what? SpeedSys broken? Yes. Let me show you real quick here. We're going to restart in real DOS. Not the restart in MS-DOS mode. We're going to reboot the machine and go into real DOS. Now, SpeedSys doesn't need a whole lot, like, you know, high mem running and, you know, XMS, like 4 megs of extended memory available. It doesn't even need that, technically, because it still runs, but the memory test doesn't work. So let's do bench. This is my shortcut to DOS bench. So, speeds this. Press N. As you can see, cannot allocate 4 megabytes of XMS memory. Several tests cannot be performed. Most specifically, the memory tests. But we can get a look at the processor score. And of course we can get a look at the, the general information in the upper left corner. But yeah, we've got a Chomper XT running at 400 megahertz. We've got some L1 cache. It can't detect L2 because it's not doing the memory tests. But yeah, our processor score is nearly as fast as a Pentium 2 400, and that, of course, that test, remember, is integer only. The floating point unit on a K6-2 is not nearly as powerful as a Pentium 2's floating point unit. But yeah, general everyday stuff, K6-2 is a pretty great processor. So, well, here's the thing, right? So if I quit back to DOS here, well, here, we'll do check CPU. So you can see we've got our K6-2, it's detected. I can do cache check. Cache check's kind of annoying because it runs forever. But here, if I quit to DOS and then run mem to see how much memory we have, you can see, like, it's there. High mem is loaded, we've got XMS, we've got 60 megs of free XMS. Most of that, you can see, like, most of that is because 4 megabytes of it is used for the onboard video, which I can't turn off. I have it set to disabled, and it does not turn itself off. So my guess is that part of the reason there's a problem is the onboard video. That's why it's having trouble. But yeah, we've got high memory. Most things work. So if I go back to DOS bench here, like we can do a Doom time demo. It's quite vast. We've got the Matrox on a PCI bus, and we've got, the K6-2 400. This thing flies. This thing flies in Doom. HC asks, what can you do with an Atom system? There's actually a fair amount of things you can do with it, although most of it's going to be in Linux. Because the Atom, it's interesting because the Atom is like, it's really analogous to like a really fast 486, but there's like no drivers for Windows 98 or DOS or anything like that. So most of the fun you can have with an Atom, like especially an early in-order Atom, like ones before Bay Trail. Bay Trail was the first time there was the out-of-order Atom. The earlier ones, Silvermont, stuff like that. Was Silvermont? No. Not Silvermont. You know what I mean. The early Atoms, there's not a ton you can do with them, honestly. They're mostly useful in Linux for like basic computing. They're in-order chips. They don't suffer from, from Spectre attacks because there's no speculative execution. But, they're not super fast because they don't do specular execution or out-of-order execution, unfortunately. I have so many in-order Atoms. They're so bad. They're so bad. They're literally like, they run at like, what, 1.866 gigahertz or something? Basically, they're 486s. So like, you take that and like halve it, so that'd be a Pentium, then halve it again, that'd be a Pentium 2. So you're looking at like a Pentium 2 at like 400 megahertz is about how fast they are, effectively. Not great. Not great. So let's run some Quake. This thing's pretty great doing DOS Quake. Garth Beagle says it's always onboard video's fault. It is, for real. 66.5 frames per second using the Matrox. I tested this with the onboard video because in DOS, the Sys530, iGP works fine in DOS as a VGA card. But it is slower. Obviously, it's using system RAM as video memory, but it's still like 57 FPS using the built-in VGA, which is not terrible. So, that's not bad. That's not bad. Now the fun part, though, is we have audio. Even though we have an onboard PCI sound chip, we've got audio here in real DOS. So if we run the Snarkbarker SBDiag utility, which today is the Spungbunker diagnostics program, let's do DSP tests, and I think I've got the audio set up for you guys. You can hear it. We want to play digital audio. Y'all hearing anything? It's very quiet. We've got audio. So, and of course we have FM as well. I do 1 here. Press the right key. So we can try to detect an ad-lib. We find an ad-lib because of course ESFM emulates ad-lib. And then we'll play just a little percussion loop. Oh, look at that. That's so cute. But we've got audio here in DOS. Which means I haven't set this up yet, actually. Let's set this up for a Sound Blaster. Music, let's do just regular old Sound Blaster. Sound effects, Sound Blaster, 225 and 1. We've got Doom. Oh yeah. Which is pretty great. Pretty great, honestly. Like how often are you really gonna have, you know, an all-in-one, you know, this is like an all-in-one OEM PC, this is a compact board. So like, the fact that you've got like beautiful, perfect DOS compatibility for your sound on this board is just like, man, Compaq really nailed it with this thing. That is a surprising level of competency for an OEM computer manufacturer. I did set this one up before we started the stream. It's a bit quieter, unfortunately, but got some Rise of the Triad. Yeah, works perfectly though. Good old Rise of the Triad. Alright, so, yeah, we've got native DOS audio support built onto the motherboard, which is pretty great. Oh yeah, Skilla asked what audio card family is it? It is, yeah, as Pickle said, it's an ESS Solo 1. So it's basically a PCI ESS audio drive, essentially. Like you get PCM, you get really basic stereo PCM, and ES-FM for OPL emulation. You get OPL2, OPL3, and then, you know, if any games do ES-FM, you can get You can get the expanded ESFM FM music. No wavetable, unfortunately, and there's no wavetable header on the board for a wavetable, but there are ISA slots. You do get an ISA slot on the end of the board, so if you want to throw in a nicer sound card, that's absolutely possible. But yeah, this is kind of a cool board. Now the problem is, as I was going through this thing, you know, trying to build a video around it, I'm like, can you find these? Can you find these on eBay? And you can't. At least I couldn't. This is the... What is the name of this one? Compaq always had weird names for their motherboards, and like that carries over to, you know, to the early HP boards. They have weird names. This one is this one called the Sniper or the Titan, something like that. It's, let's see if I can open up a quick tab here and take another look at it. Let's see, there is that the one? Nope, that's not it. So the one you can find on eBay these days is the Compaq Sniper, also known as the Titan R. It's the same board. It's not this board. It's a much earlier board. It's based on the Intel 430VX, and it's got 3 ISA slots and I think a PCI slot nestled in there, but they colored it brown, which makes me worry. What did they do to it? I actually ordered one of those. That should be coming in the next couple of weeks. I want to test it and see if it's any good for building a retro PC around, because it's real cheap. You can pick them up on eBay for like 30 bucks, which, you know, getting your hands on a Socket 7 motherboard these days is not easy. There's a couple of things you gotta watch out for, honestly. Obviously, first of all, if that's not a PCI slot, you're kind of stuck. You've got onboard graphics, but it's only a Sys Trio 64, so I don't know if that's such a great idea. But if that is a PCI slot, then obviously you're limited to PCI, you know, graphics cards, which shouldn't be too big of a deal if you're looking for like a late DOS, early Windows 95 build. As I will demonstrate right now by rebooting this into Windows 98, we can take a look at things. Because this is pretty competent. Like, it's not... 3D gaming on Socket 7 wasn't super amazing, really, unless you had a Voodoo 2 setup. Because the 3dfx's drivers were so efficient, they really made Socket 7 3D gaming possible. As I have found, trying to go through, you know, like 10 graphics cards to get something that would actually work with this thing and work performantly. Bacchus, hello, welcome to the stream. How are things going? Can't stay for too long. Wanted to give a few watch minutes and click like. Thank you. Yeah, if anybody wants to click like on the video, that would be much appreciated. Much, much appreciated. Rick is here from Rick's Random Retro. Hello. Oh, who else has joined? Who else has joined? HC, I saw you come in. Looks like that's it. Micro Hobbyist is here. Hello. Hello, Micro Hobbyist. Welcome back to the stream. Alright, let's start that minimized. So let's take a look at a couple of games on here. So first of all, we're running the Matrox. So this is the G2 Plus Dual, which is 2 G200s on one card. Unfortunately they're independently addressed. So if I go into like Device Manager here, you can see there's the onboard. That doesn't work very well. And then there's my 2 G200s. Oh, let me go. It wouldn't be a Tech Ambrosia stream without me hustling into the other room to go find something. So let me show you what the G2 Plus Quad looks like, because it's just absolutely ridiculous. I think you guys will enjoy it. I keep it with my set of workstation cards because I can only imagine it was used for either some kind of workstation, maybe stock trading, or a video wall. Because, like, what are you going to do with four G200s? Like, they are fully compliant DX6, you know, graphics accelerators, but, like, they're not very fast. So let me switch over to the desktop cam here. There we go. This is the quad version. So that is the G2 Plus Quad. Let's see, we've got a label up here. G2 Plus Quad P. And again, this is 4 G200s. We've got SG-RAM on the front and SG-RAM on the back. So we've got 8 megs of SG-RAM per G200. And then we've got that PCI bus controller here that basically makes a little private PCI bus on the card. That's what I've got plugged in here. It's the two G200 version. It's the dual version. So it omits these two on the end, and you only get one LHF, no, low force helix, LFH60. These are LFH60 connectors. In the dual version, omits these two G200s and then omits this LFH60 connector. So you only have, each one of these will give you 2 monitor outputs. But yeah, this is just a wild card. You can find these on eBay once in a while too. They're rare, but nobody seems to care about them. So if you're interested, snatch one up, because it's a pretty fair card. I'm looking at the card here, and there's a lot of solid components, mostly tantalum capacitors. I don't see any electrolytics on it, so like, assuming these are taken care of, they should run for a long time. Which makes me think these were intended for video walls, right? Like, they were just made to run forever. And you might be worried about the heat sinks, but like, this is running in here, and like, the G200s are warm. I can tell that they're working, but they're not like, it's not like a Voodoo 3, you know, or a Voodoo Banshee with that little tiny heatsink that the Voodoo Banshees always have, where like you touch it and you're going to burn yourself. Not the case. So these are I think they're designed really for running for long hours at a time. So, fun cards. If I had the perfect space for Tech Ambrosia, I'd have like 6 vintage monitors, 6 like vintage LCDs, and run both of these cards in a machine and just like have a video wall of my own. I think it'd be pretty cool in the back of the set. Ryzen 9 says, I see that slot 1 CPU. Where do you see it? Where do you see it exactly? What are you looking at? What are you looking at? Because I have slot 1 CPUs. I have a whole box full of them. I also have right over here slot 1 motherboard. This I think was the one I used. I don't remember now. I don't remember if this was the one I used for my Halloween special, where I pulled a graphics card out of the slot while it was running. I remember if it was this one or the other one. These are my 2 least favorite slot 1 motherboards. That's why I did it with these. One of these is broken. I don't remember which one it is. It's actually broken at this point. I tried one, it didn't work, so I tried the other. It worked, so I used it to record the episode, and I put them both in a pile over here. Because they're terrible. They're absolutely terrible. That early VIA Apollo chipset was just not great. God, it was not great. Alright, so let's get back to the desktop here. Okay, so we've got our Matroxes. They are real 3D accelerators. So if I run the expendable benchmark, powered by K6-2. Let me know if the game audio is too loud. Skilla, you need to watch my you need to watch my Halloween special. I tested scary computer myths, including pulling the GPU out when it's running. I had a lot of fun making that episode. That was a good time. But you know, you can see like this is working just fine. I'll turn the game down just a little bit because those levels are a little high. But yeah, you know, this is honestly, it's a perfectly competent 3D experience for K6-2 400. It is a little bit faster with the Voodoo, and we'll see that in a minute. But yeah, there's nothing missing. This is the demo version of Expendable, so I don't have the G400 environmental bump mapping patch applied or anything like that. So, but you know, it is what it is. It runs pretty well. I was surprised at how performant the Matrox drivers were, because I like I said, I tried a whole bunch of cards in this thing, and I got a whole lot of nowhere with a lot of them, because they were just too darn slow. But let's play some games. I've tried a few things on here just to make sure that the drivers are working. Pretty much everything I've tried works, which is kind of surprising to me, given my luck back in the day with 3D graphics cards. Blake DMC says, I bet Unreal would shug on this. Yeah, probably. Probably. It's not super performant. So we've got like GL Quake. This is by far the easiest game for this thing to run. It is again super dark. Sorry about that. But I don't know if I've mentioned there's a console command to make GL Quake look like regular Quake, as in you don't get these weird brightness volumes around light source effects. You get the actual, like, you know, the light source actually brightens up the light map around it like it's supposed to do. That's a command called the GL_FlashBlend, and it defaults to on, creating these weird, you know, yellow bubble halo things around things that are supposed to be creating light. And the reason the Carmack said that was the default way back in the day was that it was slower on some graphics cards. Until today, I hadn't found a graphics card where that was the case, where it was slower. Let me hop into the start map here, and I'll turn that setting off. So GL Flash Blend 0. So now we have the normal, like, you know, the shotgun actually lights up the light map, right? Like, this is how it's supposed to be, instead of being, you know, a bright, you know, yellow orb around the person. Now watch what happens when I do. I'll do the time demo, right? So time demo, demo 1. So you can see how much it slows down when there's explosions on the screen. And you might be tempted to think like, oh, that's probably all those particles. But it's not. It's that flash blend. This is one of those cards where it's actually faster. And it's dramatically faster. You can see how much the frame rate's dipping down when, like, when they're firing their weapon. We go down to like 18 FPS from as high as 40. So we got 26.9, 27 FPS with Flash Blend turned off. So I'll turn it back on. GL Flash Blend 1. And we'll do the same time demo. Look how much faster it is. How weird is that? I've never seen a card actually have a problem with this until I ran GL Quake on this G200. It's so wild. I don't think the G400 has this problem. I don't know if the G250 even has this problem. I have an AGP G250. I don't recall it having this problem either. 36. So we went from 27 average FPS to 36.6 FPS. That's wild. That is wild. Garth is faster. Yeah, yeah, that's the idea. Now a lot of these, honestly, if you put in a faster CPU, the G200 will still give you more frames. Honestly, like you might think it's the card, like, oh well, this is a low-end Matrox card, but most of this is going to be driver overhead, even with the Matrox. It's certainly driver overhead with the NVIDIA cards and the ATI cards. So I have some saved benchmarks from running Expendable on these things. So like, for example, the lowly Rage XL with 8 megs of single data rate SDRAM. We get a highest FPS of 26, average of 16.6. Remember those numbers, because if I open up the Radeon 9200, which is significantly faster, a significantly faster card, look at that. We've gained 6 FPS in our highest, and we've lost FPS in our average, because the drivers are newer. Driver overhead is a huge problem on a platform as slow as something on Socket 7. Your memory bandwidth isn't great on this platform. You've got, there's no level 2 cache in the processor unless you're running a K6-2 Plus or a K6-3. So you've got, level 2 caches on your motherboard, and it's not fast. You still have to go out on the front side bus to get to the level 2 cache. So let's see. So yeah, I benchmarked this card in Expendable before I ran the stream. Take a look at that. 20 FPS average. So we're 4 FPS average faster than a Radeon 9200. That's not right. But it gets even better. If I open up the saved benchmark for the 5500, for GeForce FX 5500, look at that. 12 FPS. That's with the driver from like 2004. That's when support for this card basically started. It's not the first driver for this card. I went a couple of driver versions in on Phil's website, on Phil's Computer Lab. And yeah, it's well past when anyone was making anything for Windows 98. It does still run on Windows 98, obviously, but it's not an optimized driver. It definitely assumes you're going to be running a faster processor, probably something like a 2 GHz Athlon at this point, in like 2004. Not a 400 MHz K6. But yeah, I think something like this, if you can pick up one of these cheap compact boards and fit, an old Matrox like G200, G250 in it, even a G400, if you can find one that's in PCI, can make a decent, late DOS, early Windows 95 retro gaming PC. At least I feel like it can. I've got Forsaken up here too. This runs pretty nicely. So Forsaken has this list of accelerators here. That doesn't like set up drivers or anything. This is a DirectX game, but it sets a couple of settings tweaks in the game. Riva 128 is pretty vanilla, but it recognizes that it's a single texture mapping unit that's doing multi-texturing. Whereas like the Voodoo 2 preset turns on the multi-texturing because you've got 2 texture mapping units on that. But if we run this, because functionality-wise, the G200 is pretty close to the Riva 128. It's quite a bit faster than the Riva 128, but functionality-wise and features-wise, it's pretty close. So you can see it runs, we get a correctly running game here, minus the very slight, we've got some polygon clipping issues here. But if I run a demo on this real quick, let's see, options, so you can see what resolution we're running at. We're at 640 by 480. This is a game that's easy enough to run, because this is mostly single texturing, mostly. This could probably run at 800 by 600 on this card pretty nicely. Let's give that a try. So we're at basically full detail. no automatic detail reduction. So I'll run a demo. We'll just do let's do nuke. I think I've used nuke before on other videos I've done on Forsaken. But yeah, not terrible. Mid 40s? That's pretty decent. And I have not changed my VSync settings, so that's probably why we're getting such a locked frame rate. I should probably do that. Let me see if we can do that in PowerDesk, because I got that installed right before we did this. Let's see what we get for real frame rate on this thing. So we've got Matrox PowerDesk down here. Let's see if we can turn off. Hopefully. That's not helpful. And turn off VSync on this thing. Nothing in here for VSync. Monitor settings? That makes sense. The current refresh rate is 85 Hertz. Yeah, we were seeing half VSync. So we're gonna set this to 60 Hertz. Because the capture card's only gonna work at 60. There we go. A lot of confirmation prompts. So this isn't going to help with VSync, but hopefully this will get us to like 60 FPS. Customizations. It's literally a list of monitors. Alright, I suppose. Let's see if there's if I say it not simplified. Now it's still a list of monitors. Let's see. Widescreen. 1376 by 768. Wow. Okay, let's see if that at least gets us 60 FPS in Forsaken. I haven't installed PowerStrip. That's my fault. I'm sorry. Ryzen 9 3900 XT says, I thought K6-2 had level 2 cache. It does not. Not on the processor. The K6-2 Plus was a later core, and yeah, they die shrunk it, and they were able to put level 2 cache on the die, but not the original. Let's see if we're still at. I see a locked 60 in the corner. Let's see if we're still at 800 by 600. We are. It's fun to see. Look at that with the when the menu flips out from the side. Oh, now we've got to draw 2 pixels there. It's a little much for the Matrox to handle. Let's see what we get on a demo. I'm gonna do the nuke demo again. For the most part, this should be single texturing, single pixels. Yeah, this should basically be a locked 60. Other than occasional hitches. It's looking good. That looks pretty smooth. Right, we get some alpha effects on screen and our frame rate drops because the G200's not a fill rate king, but for general flying around, it's not bad. Not terrible. Blake DMC says, Forsaken greater than Forspoken. Ryzen9 says, I'd put a Pentium MMX 266 in it. Those are super hard to find. Super hard to find. Even Pentium MMX 233s are hard to find these days. The weird thing is, so the silk screens on the board for the jumper settings don't have a 2.5x multiplier. Otherwise, before we even did this stream, I would have tested my 233 MMX in this board at 250, because I like to run it at 100 megahertz frontside bus at 2.5. It runs really nicely, and honestly, it'd be faster at games than this K6-2. Sadly, as much as I'm an AMD fangirl, the Pentium 233 at 250 is quite fast for Socket 7. I'm sure the jumper settings exist, they're just not silk screened onto the board, so I haven't figured out what they are yet. I just haven't had a lot of prep time with this thing. But that would be kind of a killer combination. The Pentium MMX at 250 plus the Voodoo 3. It's good stuff. Alright, so let's go back here. I wonder if I have power strip on this machine. I don't actually remember. Install. I have so much weird stuff on this thing. This SD card has been around. Get a MIDI file in here. It looks like I don't have power strip on here, so I can't try and force off the VSync, unfortunately. Anyway, I think we're an hour into the stream. I think we've probably seen enough from the Matrox, yeah? I suppose I should show you a Quake 2 on this. It does run. It's not awful, but it's not amazing. I just had to look up how to benchmark this, because I can never remember. It's time demo 1, and then it's map demo1.dm2. So we'll do a quick time demo on Quake 2 with the Matrox. You can see, 20-ish FPS, it's not amazing. Quake 2 is a lot heavier on multi-texturing than Quake 1 was. And we get that same slowdown when we've got, dynamic lighting on the screen that we had in Quake when GL Flash Blend was turned off. So we went from 27 FPS in GL Quake with GL Flash Blend turned off to 21 FPS, 21.6 in Quake 2. So let's put the Voodoo in it. Let's put the Voodoo in it and see what it does. Evangeline Dominic says, "Ah yes, the old Sys 530 chipset. My best friend had a motherboard that he used that. Many hours were spent formatting and reinstalling Windows out of boredom with that machine." Oh, that's a mood. That is a mood. Let me switch you all over to the, grab the right mouse, switch you all over to the desktop so you can see. There we go. Beauteous. I'm going to disconnect this cable first. And again, if you go looking for one of these dual or quad Matrox cards, you're going to need an LFH60 cable, not a DMS59. It looks real similar, but it has all 60 pins. It doesn't have the one pin missing. A DMS59 cable. I've got one, because that's what I thought I needed to get first. They don't work. They don't work with these wild video cards. If you joined late and you're like, what on earth video card are you talking about? It's this thing. This is the Matrox G2 Plus Dual. We've got two Matrox G200s on board, outputting one display each to the LFH60 connector. So both of these things have 8 megs of SG RAM on board. They're pretty decent. I think so anyway. Other than that slowdown in Quake, it's a very compatible 3D accelerator. And of course there are, I can't not show this off again, but there's also the quad version, which is just completely bonkers looking. And when you get one of these LFH cables, it'll actually tell you, if it's if you're connecting in display 1 or 3, or 2 or 4. And yeah, these are Matrox cables. They actually say Matrox on them. It's kind of cool. Never thought I'd get a specific cable for a video card. Imagine if you had to buy NVIDIA cables for your NVIDIA card these days. So we are going to be skipping the Rage XL. I know everybody's disappointed, but we're going to go straight to the Voodoo. And this is a Voodoo 3 2000 PCI. And this was built after 3DFX merged with STB. As you can see on the back, it actually says 3DFX Interactive instead of STB. So this is one of the later Voodoo 3s that were produced. And we've got a real 3DFX logo on the back. Ta-da! Rise 9 says an RTX 4090 cable would be like $150. Absolutely. Absolutely. So, just for kicks, we'll run DOSBench real quick. Let's see, what did we get, like 839 real ticks in the Doom benchmark? One of the things that I don't know, like 3DFX got a lot of crap for not making a 2D capable card for so long, right? Like they had the original Voodoo and then the Voodoo 2, and like they tried with the Voodoo Rush to like weld the two chipsets together to weld a Voodoo to a 2D chipset, and 828 real ticks. We're at least within the ballpark, maybe a little bit faster. Oh, Ryzen 9 wants to see PC player, of course. The thing I want to say is that 3DFX apparently kind of got nerd sniped when they said that, when they got so much hate about their inability to ship a 2D, 3D combination card. Because like the Voodoo Banshee and the Voodoo 3 have incredible 2D cores. Like these are very complete. They're not completely bug-free, but they're very complete VGA cores, and they have full Windows GUI acceleration on both of these things. They're kind of incredible. So let's run PC Player. We're going to run it at 320 by 200 first. Should be nice and smooth. 105 FPS on PC Player, 320 by 200. We'll run a quick Quake bench here, and then I'll turn on the Visa extensions. So we'll do Quake at 320 by 200. Which is fast. Like I said, it's a very good VGA core. .9 FPS. I think that is an increase, but I think only by like 0.1 FPS. It's pretty good. Pretty good. Now, I'll turn on the Visa extensions. Let's do fast vid. Let's see if that works. Turn on everything. And it crashes. Okay, so that's not a great idea. Let's see if we can still run 640 by 480. So we'll try PC Player at 640 by 480. Hey, we are running. That's not terrible. This will be like 20 or so FPS, I think. .24. Almost exactly 1/4 of the frame rate. Which makes sense. It's 4 times the resolution. Let's see what we get with Quake. At 640 by 480, what the heck? Should be like 15 FPS? Oh yeah. She's chunky. But it looks like, yeah, we're about 15 FPS. Skilla says, now imagine an Apple cable for the 4090, definitely in the $400 range. The thing is, the Apple cable for the 4090 would also provide power for the card and like USB-C and like 4 PCI Express lanes for whatever reason. Out of the card. Like, why? Who knows? Gut Bomb says, yes, benchmarks! Don't worry, we're gonna get there. The really impressive part is coming up. Those Voodoo cards. 3DFX's drivers are legendary. I guess probably if you're a game dev from the era, they're legendary for being buggy, but they're legendary if you're an end user for being well optimized. Yeah, there we go. 14.9 FPS, almost exactly 15 FPS. Which makes sense. We're doing, again, about 4 times the resolution. Okay, so Blake DMC says, Star Wars Episode 1 Racer frame rates on the N64 are 15 FPS. Yeah, that's an oof, alright. That is definitely an oof. I always forget about that game. Like, I had it back in the day, and I played it on a K6-2, a 350, and it was actually pretty fun. I should grab that again. Work that into my benchmark suite. Okay, so I think we're done in DOS. I believe we are, yeah, we're done in DOS. So I'm going to reboot, and we will start up Windows 98 with the Voodoo. That's true. Star Wars Episode 1 Racer is on GOG. I should grab it. I might have to get that. Oh, Gutbomb. Gutbomb asks, is this a Voodoo Banshee? This is not a Voodoo Banshee. This is a Voodoo 3. It's a Voodoo 3 2000 PCI. It's one of a pair of Voodoo 3 2000s I have. I have an AGP version that was very kindly donated to the channel by Nathan from Pixel Pipes. And I'm still planning on doing that, comparison video, if PCI or AGP makes any difference on a Voodoo. I'm just trying to find the right board for it. Okay, so we've got our Voodoo. It is installed. The driver's active. I installed this the other day. The driver's here. Windows 98 recognizes it. We've got, you know, GUI acceleration. We're good there. So let's run GLQuake. I might have to delete the id1 folder, or not the id1 folder, but the GLQuake folder. Yep. Hang on. When you change 3D accelerators, don't forget to delete there's a folder inside the id1 folder in GLQuake where it stores all of the compiled models for the previous card. I didn't delete it. Please wait. We're just gonna run GLQuake and software here for a second while I can quit out of it. Maybe not. Let's see if I can Alt-Tab. There we go. Ah, my mistake. Ah, shoot. Can't right-click and close it. There we go. My bad. Find target. There we go. So you go into the id1 folder and you delete this GLQuake folder. That removes all the precompiled models from the previous graphics card. And I betcha, based on how slow that was, I betcha I don't have an OpenGL32 in here for a Voodoo. So let me grab that from Quake 2. Paste that in there, and we're gonna rename that. Oh, that needs to be OpenGL32.dll. There we go. Now we should be good to go. See if this works now. Hey, that's more like it. Turn on mouse look. But yeah, you can see we are getting significantly better frame rates on the Voodoo. And honestly, most of that is down to the driver optimization. Honestly. So let's turn off GL Flash Blend, because we don't need it on this card. There we go. Now we've got actual lighting. And let's do a time demo. She's a little bit faster. Just a smidge. .4 FPS. If you wonder why 3DFX was so popular back in the 90s when everybody had Socket 7 systems, that's why. Not only are we faster, not only are we faster than running at 640 by 480, we are faster than running at 320 by 200 in software rendering. We've gone from 66.9 FPS in DOS to 71.4 FPS in Windows at a higher resolution and with lots of pretty effects like texture filtering and dynamic lighting. This is why, this is why 3D was so beloved back in the day. So we'll run Quake 2. Let's see if this detects the Voodoo. It does not. Let's set it to 3D OpenGL. There we go. So we'll do the same thing. Time demo 1 map demo1.dn2. There's a reason they called it a Voodoo card. It is Voodoo magic. Now you can see our frame rate has improved here, but we're still down quite a bit in frame rate. And like we're not touching the limit of the Voodoo 3, that's for sure. At 640 by 480 in Quake 2, not even close. Alright, this is a card that can push hundreds of frames per second in this game. We are still definitely limited by the CPU, but not nearly as much. Right? 40.1 FPS. That's a huge improvement. That's a huge improvement over the Matrox, and mostly, honestly, due to drivers. Of course, I do also have Quake 3 on here. Did not get a shortcut put in there fast enough. Quake 3 demo. We'll run Quake 3 on here. Or not. Can't set direct input co-op level. Okay. Thanks. I wonder if I need a newer version of DirectX on here. Incredible. Go Windows. What a great operating system. Unbelievable. Yinza says, I'm developing a little homebrew passion project video game. I'm targeting OpenGL 1.1, but for some reason, I can't get my game to run on anything older than i686 x86. So Pentium Pro Pentium 2 is my minimum CPU spec. Aha. Yinza says, I think it's because I'm using SDL 1.2 and it uses CMOV instructions. I don't know. There's definitely some missing instructions when it comes to, you know, obviously first generation Pentiums and then K6 Cyrix and then actual 686 processors. AMD tried very hard to make their own instruction set with 3D now, but it really never caught on. Of course, they tried again later. They tried again a couple of years later with x86-64, and basically everything we have today is because of that. So they nailed it the second time. Ryzen 9 asks, what if you put in a K6-2 Plus? That is a good question. I have not tried any other CPUs in this board other than the one that I found it with, which was a very dirty and gross-looking K6-2 400. But I think what I'll do is I will try that for the video, because this is, like I said, I'm right in the middle of producing a video for this machine. So I think I might try that. I honestly don't know if the BIOS even supports the K6-2 Plus, the Sharp-Tooth core. If it does, cool. That'll definitely be a performance boost. Clarjon OnePlus says, a new Defunct Land is coming on Sunday. Sweet. I'm a fan. Defunct Land's good stuff. Gutbomb said a while back, I had a K6-2 400 a long time ago. I loved it. I played a ton of System Shock 2 on that machine. Yes, same. I played a lot of... I beat System Shock 2 on that K6-2 350 I was mentioning with a Voodoo Banshee. Loved that game. God, it was so good. I know the System Shock purists, like, really like System Shock 1, but, like, System Shock 2 has so many quality of life improvements. So many quality of life improvements. So, let's see, if I go to Games, Windows, Quake 3A Demo, will you run this time? No, it still doesn't like the mouse support. Oh wait, hang on. What did we get here? Could not set given mode. Oh, I think I have this set to a weird mode in the config. That's why. Maybe I'll just delete that. Have it regenerate it from defaults. No. Still doesn't like it. Unable to load OpenGL subsystem. Figure it out, quick. You can do this. Oh, let's see. Install 3dfx. Drivers, 3dfx. OpenGL. Where's my OpenGLs? How do I not have 7-zip installed in here? This stream's going down the tubes fast. Just wanted to run Quake 3 on it. 3dfx, OpenGL. Let's grab the mini GL. Let's sure extract. Perfect. Clarajon says 7's at 4.20. Nice, yeah. Nye.ce. That's what I thought. I don't need this for Quake 3. I shouldn't need this for Quake 3. Why is it giving me this problem? Let's see if it'll just do this. Let's see if this will just work. I don't know what I did to this poor Quake 3 demo install, but let's drop this in here. See if Quake 3 has less of a problem. It does have less of a problem. Fantastic. Okay. Good lord. Right? Yeah, Windows. That figures. Can I actually set brightness on this? Ah, brightness does work on this. Fantastic. That's a first-class gaming experience there on the Voodoo 3. Refusing to set trilinear on a Voodoo. Okay, fine. Fine. Time demo 1. We'll do com max FPS 0. And we'll do demo 001. There we go. Now Quake 3 is interesting because they do I forget what the name of the math thing is, but they've reworked the way that they calculate pretty much everything in terms of geometry in the game. So like the Pentium optimizations from Quake 1 and Quake 2 are gone. They're out of here. In my testing, I found that finally, the K6 is faster than a Pentium in this game. Now granted, you can see the frame rate, like it's not amazingly fast, but you know, finally, you run a Pentium MMX and a K6 at the same speed, and the K6 is faster in Quake 3. So they've definitely removed all of the like Pentium-specific floating point optimizations in this game. That being said, I don't know if there are, you know, MMX optimizations, I don't know if there are 3D Now optimizations, or if there's SSE optimizations. But generally speaking, I found Quake 3 is a pretty even-handed CPU benchmark. If you can throw in a card that's fast enough, and has a low enough driver overhead that you can actually like tease out the differences between some of these slower CPUs, it makes a pretty decent CPU benchmark. And that means, of course, you know, using a Voodoo 3, basically. I don't know if even a Voodoo 4 or Voodoo 5 would work, because I don't know how good their drivers are. Never owned one. So that gives us a pretty pedestrian 20.5 FPS in Quake 3. And that is absolutely not the Voodoo 3. This is another game that a Voodoo 3 with a proper CPU behind it can do over 100 FPS in, especially at 640 by 480. There's no problem pushing above 80 or 90 FPS at 800 by 600 on a Voodoo 3 in this game, so yeah, we are definitely CPU bound. But yeah. Got lots of talk in the chat about making your own game, which is pretty cool, I gotta say. Pretty darn cool. What else do we have? I've got GL Hexen on here. We looked at... Oh, we can run Forsaken on the Voodoo. That should have VSync turned off, so we can see like how fast this thing can actually run Forsaken. If we turn this on the Voodoo 2 preset, it should work. Awesome. So it looks like we've got a VSync at 85 FPS. Hopefully that's not gonna stick around. It sticks around. Damn. Alright, hang on. Hang on. Let's see if I can get this stupid VSync to go away. I don't know why they set VSync on all these old cards. I need to install 3DFX tools to get rid of VSync. Do I have 3DFX tools on here? Hang on. Utils. Nope. Nope, that's not... I don't have 3DFX utils on here. So annoying. Well, let's, guess we can just go ahead and watch it blaze through Forsaken here. With the VSync at 85. Yes, Udem, what? Udem U, I've seen you before. Welcome back to the stream. Good to see you. Udem U says, some 3DFX drivers used to have 3D Now optimization, and yes. There also seems to be some amount of SSE optimization in the drivers. Because I've seen like otherwise unexplainable speedups on Pentium 3 CPUs, like going from a Pentium 2 450 to a Pentium 3 450, sees things go faster, which like most games don't care. Most games from this era don't care about SSE, but I imagine there's probably SSE optimizations in the drivers, along with 3D Now optimizations. 3DFX was kind of obsessive about optimizing their drivers, which is pretty cool. So yeah, we are at 800 by 600. We're doing 85 hertz refresh rate. We'll run this demo real quick, and you can see obviously you know, we have a lot more fill rate now, because when we open up one of these transparent menus, our frame rate doesn't drop at all. So we are dealing with a faster card, for sure. Skilla says getting the optimal driver and settings was half the experience in the 90s too. It really was. And sometimes you want that experience and sometimes you really don't. So it's going to look a little stuttery on stream just because the capture card is capturing at 60 FPS. You know, it's outputting an HDMI signal at 60 FPS, but we're inputting a signal into the capture box at 85 FPS. But yeah, that's running nicely. That's running nicely. Alright, so let's do expendable. We'll run a benchmark on here real quick. So I ran 800 by 600 and 640 by 480 on here, and they got almost the same frame rate. We had a max FPS of 43 at 800 by 600 and a max FPS of 50 at 640 by 480. We should technically be able to do 1024 by 768 on a Voodoo 3. Should. This will let us select a lot of resolutions, but I think this is actually supported. Should we 1024 by 768 and benchmark. Oh, no, no. Yinza, it's fine. You do not have to worry about derailing chat with game dev talk. Part of the fun of doing a stream like this is, like, you never know who's going to show up. You know, maybe it's somebody building a game that's going to run on, you know, vintage hardware. That's pretty cool, honestly. And honestly, that's like right up the alley of this channel. Like, that's totally what Tech and Burge is all about, is, you know, doing stuff on old hardware, keeping things alive, keeping the old tech alive. I appreciate it. Udemu says, good to see you streaming again. And yeah, it's been a rough few weeks. It's been a rough few weeks, I'll be honest. It does feel good to stream. I do love running these. I love the community that's kind of coalesced around the channel. We've got a lot of retro computing PC nerds here, and it's a fun time. It is a fun time. I was really hoping to get ye olde PS2 Model 80 up and running for this stream, but you know, instead we get to look at, you know, pretty explosions running on old Voodoo cards. So here's the thing, right? So classically, right, back in the day, the Voodoo 3 was competing with the TNT2 Ultra, right? That was NVIDIA's competing card at the time. And one of the major arguments that NVIDIA was using was that, you know, well, their card renders in 32-bit color, which is significantly nicer looking than the Voodoo 2's or Voodoo 3's 16-bit rendering. And then, of course, you know, 3DFX comes out with this whole, like, well, we actually do, you know, we have 16-bit rendering, and then we do kind of like a weird, you know, like, color mapping thing, and it's technically like 22-bit color. How many of you there can even see the dithering that's going on, because it's not, on a Voodoo 3, I think it's not easy to see. Like, Voodoo 3 looks pretty decent in my eyes. And the other thing, to note is, even with a TNT2 Ultra, running that at 32-bit color, you weren't going to get the same frame rates that you'd get out of a Voodoo 3. Running at its 16-bit, its 22-bit or 18-bit or whatever that 3DFX was trying to claim it was. Color depth. The TNT2 just wasn't fast enough to do 32-bit color at the same speed that a Voodoo 3, even a slow Voodoo 3, could do 16-bit color. But, like, this is the game. This is the game to notice dithering. And I've got it hooked in through the VGA, so, like, the VGA output filtering is active. This was the tech that 3DFX was talking about, that they had, some kind of special filter in the DAC that made things look better out of the VGA. And you didn't get that effect if you took a screenshot of the game. Right? Like, to my eyes, it looks pretty decent. Are you gonna notice? Are you gonna pixel peep, really? We've got a pretty heavy fog gradient on the back, in the background there. And it looks pretty good. Like, I can see a tiny bit of banding, but not a lot. We have just a ton of alpha effects. And they all look fine. The colored lighting is bright and it's colorful. Are you thinking about it when you're playing the game? I don't think so. Yinza says, "Oh, phew, because this is really a passion project. After I got my fun playing old games on old hardware, I wanted to get to programming a game for those old machines. It's addictive, isn't it? Because you're like, it's a problem. It's a problem to solve, right? Like, you have so much limited, so little compute power. Like, what can you do with it? Whole industries were built on this small level of computing power. So obviously there's something here that you can do." And it's a fun problem to solve. Well, I look forward to your game. Yinza says, "I don't know much about retro programming yet, but I at least support OpenGL 1.1, 2.0, and 3.3, and the game runs on practically anything 686 and up. So, looking forward to it." Yeah, Yudum says, "I always thought the Voodoo 3 has 2 pixel pipelines like the Riva TNT. It doesn't. Two texture mapping units and a single pixel pipeline. And it makes the most use of it." So that's one of those things. Charlotte says, "Looking back, those debates were so silly, given how fast games were back then. As if anyone had time to look at the texture dithering in Quake or Tribes. Starsiege Tribes. Who remembers Starsiege Tribes? What a game. God, that was so much fun. I put so many hours into Starsiege Tribes. Huh. That game. Oh my gosh. But yeah, like, are you looking at the dithering in it? No, of course not. You're playing the game." It's silly. And, like, the thing I think that NVIDIA really learned when they came out with the GeForce was that marketing can kill a competitor, right? Like, their transform and lighting, technology, it's a real thing to do transform and lighting on a card, but literally nothing supported it when the GeForce was launched, and for years, nothing supported it. But was the GeForce faster? Well, sure. It had 4 pixel pipelines. It had 4 full pixel pipelines with 2 texture mapping units in each pipeline, right? Like, it was a fast card, just as a DX6 card, without any transform and lighting at all. It was a fast card. But, you know, just the same way that, you know, Intel lied about the Pentium MMX, you know, oh yeah, MMX makes your computer faster. You know, please ignore the fact that we've doubled the level 1 cache in our Pentium between the Pentium and the Pentium MMX. No, it's the MMX that makes your computer faster, right? Like marketing can do some serious damage to a company, to an industry, you know, and we're I think everybody's aware of that nowadays with ray tracing, right? Like, ray tracing is mostly marketing, right? Mostly marketing. Like, yes, you get a tangible uplift in graphical fidelity for an incredible hit in frame rate. Especially since these days we've got techniques like screen space reflections and screen space ambient occlusion, and, you know, pre-computed global illumination, that you look at a ray traced game versus a not ray traced game, and it's like, it's really hard to justify going down to a third of my frame rate to turn on ray tracing. But anyway, let's see how the Voodoo 3 made out here. It made out pretty well. So, yeah, you can see we're not at all limited by the Voodoo 3 at this point. We've got basically the same frame rate at 3 resolutions: 640 by 480, 800 by 600, 1024 by 768. We're all around, you know, 45, 50 FPS, and that's mostly just the K6-2 trying to keep up with the Voodoo. It is a fast card. It is a fast card. But yeah, that's the power of the Voodoo that you do. Alright, so we are just about up on, coming up on hour and 45 minutes. We got any requests on here? Anything to see? I don't have a ton of games installed on this thing, but I can run a couple other things. I do have Hexen 2. It's funny that I have such a love of Hexen 2, and yet it's... Oh, I did the same thing on this one too. Forgot to put the OpenGL library back in it. Yep, and it's still a PCI card. No AGP here. It's kind of funny too, like, I keep talking about it, I should do a video about it, but my permanent DOS gaming PC is around this era. I built it around a 440LX chipset, which is the first chipset that Intel built that had AGP on it. It was the first time AGP appeared in the consumer market. And the thing is, 440LX, like, it's not a particularly fast chipset. It's Pentium 2 only, and it's 66 megahertz frontside bus only. A lot of people, when AGP was released, were like, why does this exist? Hey, Intel, why did you make this? There doesn't seem to be a big need for it. And that was mostly because a lot of games, pretty much nothing could come close to saturating AGP's, you know, additional bandwidth. You were gonna run into, trying to find my mini port here for OpenGL. Where did it go? Installs, drivers, 3dfx, OpenGL, my mini GL, there it is. Ah, shoot. Did I put it in here somewhere? Here we go, that'll work. Grab the Mesa FX, that's fine. Drop it in here. Okay. You know, like, you're gonna run into, you have all this bandwidth on your 66 megahertz, 133 megahertz AGP slot, but you're gonna run into bandwidth limitations with, you know, your SD RAM, that only runs at 66 megahertz on a 440LX, or your front side bus on your processor that only runs at 66 megahertz on a 440LX. And obviously, you know, as the years went on, you know, system buses and system architectures improved to the point where AGP was definitely necessary, but like in the early days, there really wasn't a point. There really wasn't a point. And it's one of the things I want to look at in that video that I keep meaning to make about, you know, Voodoo 3 PCI versus AGP. Oh, that's not right. Oh boy, what is up with that? That's not good. We've got a texture issue with this one. We're loading, we haven't crashed, we're still loading things. I'm hoping that the actual game will be fine, it's just this 2D background. Nope! We've got texture issues. Amazing. Well, that's unfortunate. Ah, bummer. Bummer. I wonder if I take the... Hang on. If I take the OpenGL I put in Quake 2, and I throw it in GL Hexen, it should work. This was the downside, right? This is the downside of having a 3DFX card. You'd have to shuffle around these stupid OpenGL mini ports, because 3DFX never made like a full compliant OpenGL ICD for the Voodoo cards. They just never did it. You had these little mini ports that had like most of the features you'd need for whatever game. Let me grab this one. Backup of 3DFX GL. Let's drop you in here and rename you to OpenGL 32.dll. See if that works. Gutbomb says, I love Hexen 2. What a great forgotten game. It is a wild ride. Hey, there we go. Now our textures work. Much better. Okay, so single player, new game, will be the assassin. I'm gonna cheat anyway, so it doesn't really matter what difficulty level. Good old Hexen 2. I loved these early Raven games. They were so good. Hard as beans, but just so good. Okay, so let's do, the fun part is, of course, well first let's turn on mouse look, just like good old Quake. We have +M look turns on mouse look. GL Flash Blend is off by default in Hexen 2. And we'll do an Impulse 9 for all weapons. Because Hexen 2 is practically a Quake mod, if I'm being honest. Like, you've got reskinned sky textures. It's mostly just a reskin. You know, it's just a total conversion for Quake. More than anything else. Got it. Okay. But yeah, good old Hexen 2. I played so much original Hexen. I never really got past like pretty much the levels in the demo for Hexen 2. But I played the bejesus out of Hexen 1. But yeah, it makes a fair like late DOS, you know, this whole machine makes a pretty fair late DOS, early Windows 95 gaming machine, especially when you throw a Voodoo in it. But you know, that's a little out of the reach of folks these days. What did these even run for? This, I got this Voodoo 3 for cheap a while ago, years ago at this point, but I don't think even this model is cheap anymore. Let's see, eBay. Oh yeah, why don't I, let's try that. Oh wait, I don't have a network card in here. I was gonna try the browse service thing again. Like, look this up in eBay on the machine, but I don't have a network card in there yet. Let's see, Voodoo 3, 2000, PCI. Good lord, yeah, even these are expensive now. Yikes. $180? For the cheapest Voodoo 3. Yikes. Yikes, yikes, yikes. That's just too much. That's just too much money. Incredible. Yeah, there's $150 for a Voodoo 3 2000. That's the AGP version even. Yikes, 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 yikes. Which is why I started out this video looking at the Matrox card, because like you can still get those on eBay for like $40, $30. You know, they're still somewhat affordable, and they do a fair job at, you know, running 3D games. They're not like the fastest thing out there, but they're pretty okay. Yeah, especially if you're running early games on something that's low performance like this. Oh, gosh. That is so much money. And Pickle says, U-Hexen2 is a good modern open source project for the engine. Source ports are good. Source ports are good. Skilla says signing off for the night. Well, it's good to see you, Skilla. Good to see you on the stream. Hopefully you come back for the next one. Which hopefully I'll have that PS2 actually working. Fingers crossed. Yeah, Udemy says early GeForces really struggled because of low memory bandwidth, not allowing them to reach their theoretical fill rate. Yeah, it was kind of funny. So you had the combination of, you know, you had low spec CPUs back in the day when the GeForce launched, and not enough memory bandwidth on the SD-RAM model. So like at high resolutions, like 1024 by 768 or lower, lower resolutions, the GeForce didn't seem to be any faster than like a TNT2 Ultra, because, you know, you were limited by your CPU. The transform and lighting, you know, wasn't actually that great. It didn't actually accelerate anything in most games. And then at higher resolutions, the GeForce didn't really start to pull away from a TNT2 Ultra a whole lot, because it was limited by that memory bandwidth. It was kind of funny to see. I think I've said this before, but like the card that really put the last nail in 3DFX's coffin was the GeForce 2 MX, right? Like about a year after the GeForce launched, they come out with the GeForce 2 line, and one of the first cards they launch is the MX. And it was squarely aimed at, you know, Voodoo cards. 'Cause 3DFX at the time, as they were working on VSA 100, were lowering the prices of, you know, the Banshee and the Voodoo 3 in anticipation of the Voodoo 4 and the Voodoo 5 coming out. So they were starting to move into the lower end of the market. And when NVIDIA launched the 2MX and gave you, you know, basically original GeForce levels of performance for the price of a Voodoo Banshee, that was pretty much the end of 3DFX, and it was kind of shocking to see. It was kind of shocking to see them just do that. They're like, yeah, you know what? We're just going to make a special version of this chip that lops off half of the pixel pipelines, sell it for super cheap, and just, you know, murder 3DFX. It was wild times back then. Absolutely wild times. I didn't really hold a grudge. I bought a GeForce 2 MX eventually because it was a pretty good option. They stayed very relevant for a long time. So anyway, let's close out this stream because it's been a wonderful afternoon chatting with y'all and running some classic games on a Socket 7 machine. And I will definitely catch you in the video about this machine, which should be going out pretty soon. I'm not completely done with it, but I'm pretty close. So hopefully, I'm hoping Monday. I'm hoping I can release it Monday. So I hope you all enjoyed the stream. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your weekend, and I hope you all continue to be kind to yourselves and others. Have a wonderful night, and I will catch you in the next one.